Hey, come on. Don't you stand there. Push me. To see how smart I am.
Alright, baby, here we go! Directly from the research lab of modern education.
Now let's see how smart this episode can be.
Sure, baby, let's amaze our audience.
We will start with some blowing mind facts about the smart objectives in the restaurant industry.
Wow, then we will continue with the 3D buttons push effect in PowerPoint.
Then, how to link the slides through the 3D buttons, creating a piano layout structure.
Then it's time for the presentation of the smart objectives like you never seen before, with good and bad examples presented with the 3D push buttons.
Then, you will learn how to create this amazing presentation with 3D push buttons in the section How It's Made tutorial.
And at the end, the best guarded tip that will allow you to save 10 times the amount of work that you normally would have to do to create such a unique presentation.
Wow. This is something that I really don't want to miss.
Me neither. So what are we waiting for? Let's start with some blowing mind things about the smart objectives in the restaurants industry.
Did you know that over 70% of restaurant business plans fail due to poorly defined objectives? That, of course, aren't smart?
Did you know that restaurants that don't set smart objectives are twice as likely to close within the first year of activity?
Did you know that nearly 80% of restaurant owners report struggling to achieve their goals? Because they lack smart objectives guiding their actions?
Did you know that restaurants without clearly defined smart objectives experience a 50% higher rate of employee turnover compared to those that do? And now, ladies and gentlemen, the smart did you know dessert from the smart restaurant.
Did you know that restaurants with smart objectives are 3 times more likely to increase their profitability within the first year of activity?
And because you enjoyed so much the dessert, let's finish our meal with the smart restaurant best joke. So, why did the restaurant manager set smart objectives?
Because he wanted to make sure that they won't end up half-baked.
That was a good one. Now let's continue with the 3D buttons push effect in PowerPoint. So we are in a PowerPoint where we have these lovely pictures and where we want to create our 3D buttons. Step number 1 is to insert an ordinary shape. This time is going to be a rectangle with rounded corners. Now you can change the dimensions. In my case, it's going to be a 0.85 times 0.76. Then let's put a certain outline color. I will put a black and the main color is going to be red. Now it's just an ordinary shape. Step number 2 is go to the format shape from the effects, go to the 3D format and then pick up a bevel. I will put a round one. That's great. Step number 3 is to go to the 3D rotation and pick up a certain preset that is called perspective relaxed. Now increase a little bit the perspective up to 60 degrees. And finally, the next step is to go back again to 3D format and apply the depth. In my case, I will use a 26 points. And now we have our button. Let's change the color of the contour. I will put a dark blue, and again for the depth I will use the same red. Now you can make as many copies as you want and then you can adjust their colors. Alright, now we have 4 different buttons with 4 different colors. Let's align them. First of all, align middle, and then distribute horizontally, and here we go. Now let's create the push effect. For this, it's very easy to duplicate the slide, and in the next slide, let's pick up the red button. For example, we're going to modify the depth. Instead of the initial 26 points, we're going to put just 16, and now let's move it a little bit down. And now here we go in the full presentation mode. When going from one slide to the another, we will have the push effect. Of course, this is not the way we're going to use it, because if we're going to move these to another position in the presentation, then logically by advancing to the next slide, we're going to go to nowhere. And this is because so far we have done just half of the job, meaning that a push effect is not equal with a pushable button. So now let's do the second part of the job, meaning to create the pushable button. So let's click on the button, then go to the insert, then action, and from here we'll create a hyperlink, in our case to slide number 3. And a part of that we'll also want to play a certain sound. In my case, I want to put a laser. And now go again to the third page, click on the button, repeat the action, but this time we're gonna link it with the slide number 1. And again, we want to play a certain sound, again, the laser. Now we have both of them, meaning a push effect and the pushable button. So let's double check it. We are in full presentation mode. If we're gonna click just on the slide, we go to the next slide. We don't want that. Let's return to the first slide. Click on the button, push, effect, pushable button, we are on the third slide, push it back, we are on the first slide, and so on. You can play with it as many times as you want. Now we've got everything in place. Let's find out now how we can create the 3D buttons piano structure so that we'll be able to navigate through the slides with the help of the 3D pushable buttons. First of all, a beginner might do something like this. Might delete these 3 slides, then might duplicate this slide 3 more times, and then might switch this back because this is already pressed, and then might try to connect each one of the buttons with every single slide. In this case, it's 4 times 5 means 20 different connections. 20 different connections is not the end of the world, but if you would have had to create 20 times 20, meaning 400 different connections, well, that's something that certainly you're not going to do it. So I'm gonna Control Z everything and recreate the initial situation, and I'm going to show you now how you can save, in this case, 5 times the amount of work, while at the end I'm gonna show you the best guarded tip, where it's going to involve a very different technique than the one that I'm going to present you right now. For the moment, I'm gonna erase everything except the first slide, and here on the first slide I'm gonna cancel the action, so no actions at all. Then I'm going to duplicate this slide 4 times. Now let's suppose that I want to talk about menu number 1 here, for example, and then on the other slides I want to talk about menu number 2, menu number 3, and menu number 4. Alright, now this technique involves initially removing the buttons from the other slides, okay? And we'll keep for the moment just the buttons from the first slide, and we're gonna want to make these connection: the red button to menu number 1, the green button to menu number 2, the blue button to menu number 3, and the yellow button to menu number 4. Alright, so in this case here we're gonna insert the connection with a slide number 2, then this is going to be the connection with slide number 3, then here is going to be the connection with slide number 4, And finally here the connection with slide number 5. And now there are just 2 more things to be done. First, to copy and paste all the buttons in the other slides, and then to arrange the position of the button depending on the slide you are. So let's select the format shape, go to the effects, then 3D format, and logically here you'll want to decrease the depth to just 16 points and arrange again the red button. Then here do the same for the green button. Here do the same for the blue button. Okay. And finally here for the yellow button. And now you are done, everything is in place, so let's double check in full presentation mode. One of the best parts with this type of presentation is that you can go and we can start with whatever slide you want. You don't need necessarily to start with the next slide. So for example, if we want to talk about menu number 4, then we can press the yellow button and we will be there. Then if we want to speak about menu number 2, then we just have to press the green button and we will be there. Then if we want to unpress it, we will be back on the main page, and then we can go and talk about menu number 3, and then from menu number 3 jump to menu number 1, and so on. You can use whatever kind of combination and your audience will love it. And now my friends, one of the most awaited moment, the presentation of a real business example of how to set the SMART objectives for the smart restaurant. So here we go in a very unique presentation way. The ultimate purpose of every business is to get more clients, more sales, and more profit. So let's see how our smart restaurant can achieve this by creating smart objectives. We'll start with a bad example for the specific quality. Our restaurant will have more clients in the next period. This objective is not specific at all because you can't know how the restaurant will get more clients and what the next period means. So let's see now an example of a good specific objective. Expand the restaurant's catering services to corporate clients, specifying menu options and pricing packages tailored to their needs and preferences. As you can see, the objective is very specific now because we know how we will get more clients by implementing catering services to corporate clients that will be attracted by providing them with good prices and packages tailored to their needs. Now, this unique presentation system allows me to jump in whatever section I want. It is not necessary to continue with the measurable section. And I want now to continue with the achievable section because the majority of the objectives might fail if they don't have appropriate resources to back them up. So let's see an example of a bad objective from the achievable perspective. Expanding catering services without assessing capacity or capability. This proves that the objective might fail due to inadequate capacity or capability. By contrary, let's see now a good example of an achievable objective. Invest in additional kitchen equipment and staffing to accommodate increased demand for catering services, ensuring quality and efficiency in fulfilling the orders. By making this investment, the restaurant will make sure to have enough resources to cope with the new catering services they want to implement. Let's head now to the time-bounded section and see a bad example. Expanding catering services whenever it's possible. Surely this objective is not either time-bounded but also doesn't sound too professional. By contrary, let's see now a good example from this perspective. Expanding catering services starting from the second quarter, allowing for adequate time to hire and train additional staff and procure necessary equipment. With this formulation, not that we have now a time interval, but it is also highlighting the fact that it is taken into account the time required to get additional staff, train it, and procure the necessary equipment. Let's head now to the measurable section and see how a bad objective from this perspective might look like. Signing catering contracts in the next period. As you can observe, we don't know how many catering contracts should be signed in order to evaluate if this objective has been fulfilled or not. And we also don't know what is the next period. By contrary, a good formulated objective should sound like this. Secure at least 10 corporate catering contracts in the first quarter, tracked through signed agreements and revenue generated starting from the second quarter. We'll know that the objective has been fulfilled when we will have at least 10 corporate catering contracts being signed, and we also can measure the generated revenue starting from the second quarter when we will actually be able to implement the service, having enough time to get the right equipment and prepare very well the staff. Finally, let's head into the relevant section and let's start with a bad example. Investing just in catering related equipment. By making such an investment, we will be able to just fulfill this objective and not other objectives within the company, making it less relevant. By contrary, let's see now a good example of relevant objective. By investing in additional kitchen equipment and new staff, we will be able to also develop new recipes for our visiting customers in the third quarter, increasing the quality and attractiveness of our offer. As you can see, with this investment, we can also fulfill other objectives of the restaurant, making it very relevant because we will allow the restaurant to develop new recipes, increasing thus the chances to attract more visiting customers and thus increasing the sales. I really hope that this unique presentation mode has helped you understand very well what the SMART objectives are and how they can be established. Now, my friends, let's see how you can create this amazing type of presentation in the next section called How It's Made tutorial.
So we are in a new PowerPoint presentation where we only have the logo of the restaurant and the 4 3D push buttons that we have created earlier. Now, first of all, I'm going to remove their links. As you can see, I can't do it by selecting all of them. I have to do it one by one. That's something that has to be done for each one of the buttons. And this time I'm going to show you a very different technique, the one that will save you 10 times the amount of work and that will allow you to work directly with the slides and not just walking the buttons from one slide to the another. And finally has come the moment to reveal you the most important tip that will save you 10 times the amount of work. And this time we're not going to move the buttons between the slide. No. This time I'm gonna apply this tip in two different phases. Phase number one, create all the slides that you need for the future connections. So in my case, I want to add 10 more slides. So this is going to be the first one. Let's format it like the previous one, then Ctrl C and Ctrl V 9 more times. And then let's apply to all of them the same gradient. That's great. And now it's the moment in which we're going to create a link for each one of the buttons with each one of these 10 slides. So this is going to be connected with slide number 2 and so on. I will again fast forward this part. Alright, we have everything in place, all the links are created. Now, one more important information before heading to the phase number 2 of our technique. You have to understand that when a connection between a button and a certain page is created, that connection is going to be forever, regardless of the fact that you will add some other slides in the future. For example, here we have a connection with slide number 10. So let's put a mark here. Let's put something like this is original 10. All right, and now if I'm going to add in front of it other slides, now this is going to be slide number 14. But logically, when I'm going to click on the connection, I'm gonna have again the connection regardless of the fact that I have brought some other slides in front. All right, so now phase 2 of our technique is something that will amaze you, because we're gonna select everything and we'll keep just the first slide and we're going to delete everything. Delete everything. Now let's see, when we're gonna hover over these buttons, you're going to see that these might appear a connection with slide number 0. Slide number 0 does not exist, but in reality, don't worry, the links are there waiting for us. And now the last phase is that you will have to duplicate this slide and always duplicate the first slide and then move the newly created slide in the last position. And that's it. And with this, everything is going to work fabulous. So let's double check it. So duplicate, then again the first will be duplicate, then moved at the back, then duplicate, move at the back, and so on until we'll have all the 11 slides. So this is slide number 6, this is number 7. Remember always to duplicate just the first slide, number 8, and then move it at the back, number 9, number 10, okay, and number 11. Now everything in place, everything will work just fine. Now we can finally create the elements for the specific measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bounded, and then we will make the final probe. So let's insert one more rectangle. This time is going to have the following dimensions. The height is going to be 3.46, while the width is going to be 2.5. Okay, then we're going to position it right here. We're going to apply the same style as this one. So that's perfect. We now just have to make a little bit smaller the font size, as otherwise all the information is not going to fit here. So I will put a 16, and that's it. Now you just have to copy and paste the information from another document where you have the information, and then the final check.
So now again, I will fast forward this process and we will see in the end. Alright, so we've done it. Now is the big moment of the truth to see if everything works perfectly, and when we're gonna press the respective buttons, we'll have the right connections. But before of that, there is still one more element to be done, meaning that at the level of each slide, we will have to make sure that the button is pressed. So let's create a smaller depth so that the button will look like it's going to be pressed. Alright, my friends, now the moment of truth. Let's start with the first slide in full presentation. So let's see that we want to talk about measurable, a bad example, and we get a bad example. Then a good example, and we get a good example. Then let's suppose we will talk about time-bounded, about a bad example, and then a good example. Then let's discuss about specific, a bad example, and a good example. Let's talk about achievable, a bad example, and a good example. And finally, let's talk about relevant, a bad example, and a good example. As you can see, everything works, everything is in place. So now you have this impressible presentation that you can create on your own and impress your own audience.
My friends, I really hope that you had a memorable experience this time with our original content and that you've learned so many useful things. Mrs. Button, that seems to have a new look, also want to tell you something, so please go ahead, Mrs. Button.
Yes, thank you. I also hope that what we've presented to you today is going to give you another perspective about the smart things that can be done in PowerPoint. And if you have enjoyed our content, then please, I would like to ask you to think a little bit different.
Oh, I'm curious, Mrs. Button, what you're going to ask to our friends.
My friends, please, don't think just at you. If you think our content is good enough and might help other people too, then please, helps us to reach more persons, and this can be done only if you will give positive signals to YouTube algorithm.
That's correct.
When you click the like and subscribe button, this is not just a reward for us, but is also a help that you can give to other persons to know about us, about our efforts, and about our content. So, by doing so, others at their turn will thank you, like we are doing it right now. Millions of thanks, and see you in the next episode.
Goodbye, my friends, and see you soon.